Hello, Mgtows. Hello, man. Let me see. There we go. There we go. Hello, Mgtows. Hello, man. I want to talk about a subject that just irks me today, and that's it's the incels. It's a false equivocation with what an incel is, and it's a false equivocation of. There's a lot of books written, and today I was watching Sam Seder. I don't know if he's he says he's a progressive, but I think he's just tapping into the hate, all the hate. And most of you guys know I'll talk about casual cruelty all the time, and casual cruelty is just easy to understand. It's just casual cruelty. It's the kind of cruelty that people just do to each other just because, well, they do it to each other, and that's it. They think it's kecky. They think it's snarky. They think they're being edgy. I notice this on both sides of the fence, the political spectrum. Sam Seder, TYT, Tom Hartman, all those guys are on the left side. They're so-called progressives, and so what Tom Hartman is probably the most progressive. At least he's not intolerant, and but TYT and Sam Seder and those guys are. I see the hypocrisy in what they're saying. They'll often bring on feminists on their thing with new feminist books. And one book I meant to read right now is Down Girl, The Logic of Misogyny. I wanted to read it and see what they had to say. So he had that person on today. I'll put it up and show you. Screen share, blah, blah, blah. That's the screen share. There it is. And there's my infinity screen. And this is what it looks like. This is Sam Seder here. And yeah, that's Sam Seder. And that's the girl that writes Down Girl. It's Kate Main. Kate Main writes The Logic of Misogyny. I wanted to see the perspective of that. And he's an awful person. This person has the most awful people. They're self-proclaimed progressives, and on his podcast, and he does very well. He's got 500,000 viewers and everything. I don't care about offending him, because I really don't care about offending anybody. When we talk about progressive, I'll always say Mgtow in itself is very progressive. It's about as progressive and on the edge as you can get with any program. We don't like ritualized things, traditional conservative things, and things like that. We throw those things out, and we do a little bit of thinking when we think about everything. And the incel problem, you have to think about what they were talking about as Down Girl was. They were talking about Elliot Rodgers, and Elliot Rodgers, the argument with Elliot Rodgers being an incel, somehow being a misogynist, just goes, it's a flyby on me, because Elliot Rodgers, all in all, let's look at this guy. He's raised with the 2%ers in California. He drives around in a Mercedes Benz. Most incels, that would just be a dream for them. 98% of incels will never drive around in a Mercedes Benz, will never grow up a 2%er in Hollywood. This kid, he wasn't a bad looking kid. He just had problems. And when he did go do his horrendous act of shooting somebody, he killed 4 men right off the bat. They wouldn't let him in the dorm, so he killed another 2 men right after that, and he ended up killing 2 women and 6 men. I think that was the stats. I can't remember. It was a little while ago. Would a misogynist do that? No, a misogynist would angle all of his hate at a single group of people that he hated, which is females. It just makes sense. It's logical. Now, what they do is they'll conflate that, and then during this podcast that I was trying to grimace and get through just so I can know what was going on, they started calling all the men like incels. And incel in itself is a pejorative term to a man that's physically disabled, doesn't have high health, or he's part of a disadvantaged group. And I talked about this all the time. When you're born with genetic deficiencies, when you're born with a low what we call genetic diversity, you're going to be born an incel. Women are not going to want to mate with you. And that's a lot of males out there that now incels can mate with incels and cells can mate with fem cells. That's what I always say. You know, stay in your lane if you're an incel and everything. But the way they talk about them in a pejorative term. Now the hypocrisy in that comes in when you're looking at you know, body shaming and body positive movement. The body positive movement in itself, they say shaming a fat girl for being fat is just horrible. And I'll agree. I'm progressive on this stuff. I'll agree. Anybody that would walk up to a heavy girl and just call her names, it's just in knowing that she's probably already hurt deep inside, and call her names and say things about her. That's a horrible person. That is a horrible, horrible person. If in life, just try to be nice and try not to be casual, cruel to people. But on the other side of the spectrum, you've got incels, and most incels, now fat guys, incels. Would you do that to a fat man too? A large man, a body, he's just trying to be body positive, and he's got this problem in life. Would you just walk up? Well, they do it all the time. They do it in the form of incel. They use the word incel as a pejorative for all these people, this vast group of men that are not Elliot Rodgers and killers, the men that have to actually develop a personality because they weren't born with these pretty attributes like I was. They weren't born with the ability to mate and everything. I stick up for these men, and I'll stick up for anybody in life that was born semi wrong and everything. I've done this all my life. Man, there's nothing that bothers. We were at a restaurant the other day with friends, and there was a heavy girl. She was sitting over in a corner, and I thought, well, I know her. And I know her from back way back about 20 days, and she's shoving food in her face, and she's big and she's heavy. And they started dogging on her. They started making fun of her, and I said, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Would you do that to a male? Would you do that to a regular guy? You know, don't do that. That's part of the problem. You're being the same problem as everybody says you're being." And I looked over, and the idea came to my head. I know that woman, and I did know her. This little girl she's probably 32, 33 years old, but I knew her back when she was 12 years old and everything. She was attacked by a crackhead, and the crackhead cut her up, and he cut her ear off, and he cut her all over. And that same crackhead killed her mother, and that same crackhead tried to kill her sister. And it was pretty horrible. And now she sits and she eats, and she feels bad about life and everything. And I was like, oh, you guys are horrible. I mean, just don't talk about people like that. You guys are horrible. But in the same thing that I do, and I just say, don't do this to anybody, any person. We have the incel group. That incel has become a pejorative with the Progressive Party. It's something to fling out there, and I just say, oh, these men, they're just weak, and they're just, yes, there's some men that are weak. There are some men that are weak and were not born with the genetic lottery. They did not hit the genetic lottery. They're short. They're weak. Yes, okay, I can see the point. They'll never mate. But it's all about mating with these people out there. Everything's about mating with people. I'll tell you what, these are pretty decent people that actually had to develop some kind of personality in their life because they have overcoming odds. And like I say, they're part of a disadvantaged group, incels are, because they get taken advantage of at work because they don't look like everybody else. They get taken advantage of by progressives, and they get taken advantage of by far righters and alt-righters. They don't do well at work. They don't do well in relationships. They will never know love. They will never know anything like that. And yes, some of them are pretty angry about that. The genetic lottery is cruel. The genetic lottery is cruel. And when you look about these, and then the progressive side of the table, they say, oh, we have this body positive thing, and we're not going to shame big, heavy girls. And I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. No matter what they're wearing, no matter what they look like, I don't care. I don't go around looking at people all day. I don't go around looking at heavy girls and shaming them, because it's a horrible, awful thing to do. And with that, I cannot be a person of hypocrisy. I cannot do that same hypocrisy and go around shaming incels. I love my incel brothers. I think they have problems. I can see that they have problems. Most of them have problems from genetic diversity. Their parents didn't mate too well, or their parents were extremely ugly. I don't care about that. They're human beings. Now, if we're going to ask if the left side of the aisle is going to ask the right side of the aisle not to shame heavy girls, then I'll tell you what, I never want to hear incel come out of those faggots' mouths anymore. Because that's the same kind of hate. It's just angled at men. Now I start thinking about this thing. Why is it okay to shame men like that? Why is it okay to say these men don't stand up to the alpha qualities they need? Because they can't get the utilitarianism they want out of these men. They can't get them to lift boxes. They can't get these 90-pound weaklings to lift boxes, they say, for them. So they're disposable. They could become the disposable male. And in that, the hypocrisy comes in. And I have to say, wait a second. As a Mgtow and probably one of the most progressive people on earth, I will not allow that kind of bullying towards my incel brothers. I will not allow that. And if any Mgtow comes around and they start doing that to the incels, I'll simply tell them, don't do that no more. Now, I had a growth period over the last few years here. I don't do casual cruelty anymore towards people. And I don't expect anybody in this place to do it either. It's something we just kind of grow into. But it's become so on both sides of the aisles to do casual cruelty towards people. And whether that's heavy girls or girls in yoga pants or whatever you guys are talking about with that stuff, that same thing gets done to men every day. It's the same kind of shaming. And there in itself is the point. There in itself is the point. I can't say don't do that to men if I'm doing the same thing to women. I'm not going to become that walking hypocrisy so I can be the keck, so I can be the joker, so I can be that abhorrent person. And that's what I see with the Progressive Party happening. And basically, they're not progressive. They're there's these false progressive. They're like fake leather. They're like fake fur. You know who's progressive? Mgtow's progressive. We're on the edge of gender dynamics. We're saying a lot of things that are true. We're saying a lot of things that are right and honest about things. We don't want to hurt anybody. We just want to get this honesty out there. Marriage is we're saying marriage is a horrible, bad thing that was based on a religialistic garbage where people get warped in their mind about what gender dynamics is. And it warps everything. And then it makes men into slaves and it makes women into whores. That's as progressive as you get. These kind of false progressives out there, the same kind of hypocrisy as the far right, racism. They're racist too, and they can't even see it. The Sam Cedars. Yeah, that guy disgusts me. The TYTs, the Kanks, the Anakasparians, they disgust me because they'll be also edgy when talking about poor little incels that can't hardly defend themselves. And the basic reason why incels need to defend themselves is they're taking it on the head. They're taking it on the chin for all that Chad hate, for all that alpha male hate. Now, you'd never walk up to an alpha male and say something to them. And no one ever walks up to me and opens their mouth and that sort of stuff in the real world because they'll know I'll shut it real fast. So who do they attack? They attack the small man. And it's the same thing that they're saying, that it's the same misogyny. It's the same misogyny in equality. They're saying these alpha males are attacking the women and they feel threatened, but they'll attack the incel in the same sort of way, using the same sort of misandry, misogyny, the hate for that. And they become exactly what they hate. And it makes me sick because I hate hypocrisy. Yes, attacking the weak, SFM, is for the weak. We know that. A true alpha, a true good male, a true Mgtow sticks up for his brothers no matter what. He sticks up for the weaker men. He sticks up for the weaker people in the society that can't take care of themselves, that would be attacked by vicious people of both genders. Of both genders. We see it all the time in school teachers, women taking advantage of weaker boys and raping them. These strong, in this evolutionary thing, there's this thing that says the strong have to take advantage of the weak. That's horrible. Or the alpha has to take advantage of the beta. No, that's not how it works in real society. The alpha is there to protect the whole herd. And if these people were the alpha, they would know that. Us Mgtows are here to protect the whole herd. And whether that's a fat, an overweight cow at the end of that herd, we're going to protect it. We're going to let it in, and we don't care. We can't be hypocrites in this thing. We can't let one side just say all this horrible garbage and not call for the same kind of if they want to live by those rules, fine. I say I can live by those rules. I'm a man of above reproach. I don't do these things in life. There's a lot of things I don't do. I'm a monk. But this so-called progressive party now is attacking on the incels, and they made that a pejorative. And I feel bad for my brothers. I feel bad for my brothers. They didn't hit the genetic lottery. They didn't get that thing. They didn't get the intelligence. But some people are blessed with gifts, superior intelligence, good looks, emotional, they're just great people. But most people in life don't get that. And then the incels, maybe they were hit a little too hard. They fall in what I would say is a disadvantaged group physically. The same disadvantaged groups that we talk about all the time. There's autistic kids. They fall into a disadvantaged group because they're born with it. An incel is the same way. He was born with this genetic deficiency that he will never appropriate. People will look at him in horror. People will say the worst things for him. He's not going to move up. You want to talk about job security? You want to talk about fair pay? Well, let's talk about fair pay with incels. Incels will not move up in their jobs because the boss will look at them like they're lesser. They become the disposable male. They become the quintessential disposable male. And all the while, us normies, we look at him and, look at, he's just an incel. But it's okay to do that to men. Why is it okay to do that to men? When we have a body positive movement that says we're not okay to do that to women. I'll accept that. But just don't do it to the men. That's what I say. Don't do it to the men either. The men have been taking it on the chin for way too long here. But if we hold them to the same truths, they'll get snarky. They'll get snippy. They don't want to hear those same truths. And that's both sides of that political aisle. I see the worst kind of people. I see the worst kind of people spouting off their truths, their half-truths. So this young lady wrote a girl. If you get a chance, you breeze through it and see what it's about. She talks about Elliot Rodgers was not an incel. He was born a top 2%er. He wasn't a bad-looking kid. He had money. He drove around in a Mercedes Benz. Anybody that knows the female would know that attracts women. Elliot Rodgers, whatever disattracted women was his attitude. Because he was a horrible person, because he was a 2%er, because he didn't have to live by the rules as everybody else in society, and he was so entitled. He was so entitled that he thought he didn't have to live by the same rules. And that's what made Elliot Rodgers. It was an incel. When people conflate those things, it just drives me nuts. It makes me crazy. And that's all I have to say about that subject. I wanted to do a different subject too today. It was about what happens when people age and stuff. Russian agent. Let me go back and let me put this up so you can see it. There was a Russian agent that got 18 months today. And I want to talk about that Russian agent that got 18 months and why it has to do with Mgtow. Let me do no, that's not it. Okay, I got to find my screen share. There's my pretty face up there. And I'll share this. And there's infinity screen. And then I'll move over to this page so I don't have to do the voice anymore. This is a Russian agent, Maria Butina, sentenced to 18th month in prison. I destroyed my own life. Okay, she's the Russian agent who committed conspiracy, a covert Russian agent that charmed American conservative leaders with gun rights activism, and she got 17 months. You know what she did? She was sleeping her way to the top, using her neoteny as a young girl to move her way to the top. And then now she's going to use her neoteny and her charm to get less of a sentence. Just before she was sentenced, Butina made an optional plea of leniency. Her voice shook and spoke. She says, my parents, she used the neotenous voice, the female voice, discovered my arrest on that morning in a rural house in Serbia, in a Serbian village. I'm a poor girl, she's saying. She's I love them dearly. I love my parents morally, but I've harmed them financially and morally. They suffer. She's doing the whole monotony thing, the neoteny thing, and she's trying to get a lighter sentence from this judge, Alex. But what she did is she got this Alex Torquin. She slept with him. I'll go look up his page here in a minute. And she slept at the top, and she warped, and she was feeding things, and she's a Russian agent, and I deeply regret my crimes and all that stuff. But what she did is she used sex, and now that's not the important part here, and I'll put that one down. And then I got to go to another one and show you. This has a lot to do with incel. Paul Erickson right here, the activist. He was the political operative that she got with her. Was doing the NRA. Paul Erickson was part of my day. Paul Erickson goes back. To what we call the Promise Keepers during the early age of men's rights. That they're men for integrity. They were the Promise Keepers. They were the first part of the men's rights movement back in. If you read The Politics of Masculinity and you look at the men's movement and how the men's movement progressed, you can see Paul Erickson. And Paul Erickson is one thing. Paul Erickson is an incel. He was never married. He did very well in life. But let me put this down so you can see my pretty face again. And I know that's important to you guys. Stop. And then there I am. Ooh. And Paul Erickson was the guy that she attached to. Now, this is where the story begins. I don't care that she's a Russian spy. I don't care about all that thing. You shouldn't fall for one thing. She does not need to sleep with a man 56 years old or 50, twice her age. And he thought that she was in love with him. Now, that's the kicker. No Mgtow in his right mind is going to sleep with a fairly pretty 26, 27-year-old girl and think if you're in this position where you are a 2%er and you got this money and you're throwing it around and a 26-year-old girl, and this is what I say, the stripper doesn't love you. Guys, you can feed $5 bills to the stripper all night, and she's gonna pretend like she loves you. $5 bills all night. She's gonna pretend to love you. And I've had to tell my buddies there, hey man, she don't love you. She ain't going home. She just loves those $5 bills. And that's what it was with Paul Erickson. She wanted to get something, and what she wanted to get, she wanted to get into the Republican Party's uh, campaign center for the NRA, go feed these things, have them go over like they did to um, to Russia, and talk to these people, and they wanted to do this, and he got suckered. He got suckered by a pretty young girl, but he was what we would call an incel. An incel. Now, this is important in Mgtow, because a lot of these guys, MGTOWs, incels, TFLers, they will, grow up. And there's some of them are going to be successful. Some of them are going to work their ways into politics. Some of these guys will become police officers. Some of these guys will become a lot of things. They're going to work our way up as old guys fade away like me. These guys are going to work up into positions all over the world, and they're going to be MGTOW. They're going to be incel. They're going to have some red pill in them. And the worst thing you can do as a MGTOW is show this guy was a promise keeper. Now, I don't expect that most people know what the promise keepers are. It was one of the first ways of the MRA. It was Christian guys that noticed that something was wrong in marriage. There was something that was being told to them that was a lie, and there was something wrong. They took it out in feminism. They said, it's this feminism thing that's killing everything. And they're called the promise keepers. I belong to them. I belong to that club from years and years and years and years and years ago, probably 20 to 30 years ago. And this guy betrayed the MRA by doing that. Paul Erickson, we talk about it all the time. One BJ away. Most of these guys are just one BJ away, and they will jump over you. They will jump through you, knock you over to get that. And that's the kind of guy he was. He wasn't an MRA. He was just a weak male that when a 26-year-old woman that was 10 times over his dating average approached him, he was one BJ away, and he fell for that thing, and she was a Russian spy. And it cost us our country dearly. And it cost our country and all. Every person that lives in America, it cost our country because he wanted to get a little. He was that disgusting, cackling hyena of a male that just wanted to get a little. And he would do anything for that. He turned into the white knight, probably. He turned into the beggar. He turned into the cackling hyena. And all it took was a little wiggle before him. Disgusting. Totally disgusting. The stripper does not like you. She does not love you. I seen another example the other day of this in Hollywood. It was a Hollywood example of this rich male that wanted to have another male shot because his wife was sleeping around. And I looked at him. He was about 56, 57 years old. He was fat, and he had this beautiful girl. And I just looked at him and I said, are you stupid, man? You're just buying that. Now, when I look at Melania Trump, or whatever her name is, and I look at Donald Trump and I go, that girl doesn't love you. She's there for money. We all know what she is. She's a paid prostitute. She's a paid prostitute that married him because he got money. Now, we look at the Elliot Rodgers thing. Elliot Rodgers had money. He was riding around, and his parents had money. There was going to be no problem in his life. But men wield this thing. You wield that money, you'll get whatever you want out of this world. But never forget one thing. Never forget one thing, men. If you're that man that's wielding that money and that power, and you're a fat-ass ugly dude, she don't love you. And you better get used to it. If you get all butthurt at the end and you start simping, that's the hard part. I'm watching these big, fat, ugly men simp that, oh, she's fooling around. Well, what did you expect? Don't look. You know what she is. You're buying it. You're renting it. We get this so often in society. That's one of the credos and mottos of Mgtow. Just if it gets so rich, you know, you just be buying it. But a lot of these guys, and this is what the problem with I have with this. They're one BJ away. They're one BJ away from that whole problem. They're going to fall for that lock, stock, and barrel, the same as any married guy would, or the same as any normie would. They're going to fall for that lock, stock, and barrel because at a certain point, he's actually going to believe that she loves him. That's ridiculous. Step back and look at the world. Now, if these young men that don't have a lot going in the looks department and aren't going to be the alpha males want to look at this thing and go, okay, this is the way it is. Feminism brought on a new world. And a lot of girls will date you for money. There's a lot of gold digging out there. A matter of fact, most of it today is if you don't got a job, you ain't getting a girlfriend because that's one of the things that you're going to have to do. Now that's just seeking resources, and that's what they do. We know they're hyperbomistic. We know about the gynocracy. We know about gynocentrism. If you're going to be one of these guys that's going to end up paying for it because there's no way that she loves you, don't start buying in to the garbage. I see that with our very president. He thinks she loves him. I'll tell you what, he's a heart attack away from if she ever walks out of him and says, I never loved you. I'm way too above your class. And the only reason she's there is because he's a billionaire. And every billionaire's got one of those on his arms. And I never fall for that I love him bullshit from them. I know why they're there. That's the solid positive. They're there for the money. They're there for the good times. They're there for the trips. They're there for the and they'll sacrifice that little thing down there and do that a couple times a month and get him off, which I find disgusting. Which I find if you would lower yourself down to screwing some 72-year-old guy, man, the way I think about women, whew, most women would. Most women would. And that tells you right there, no such thing as love. No such thing as love. Men need to put that stuff away and start growing a brain. And it's all about parasitical it's all about parasitical things that happen inside your brain, and you delude yourself that something is real, that you want to be real. And that's what Mgtow is telling them. It's all chemicals. You're on a chemical high. You're not seeing things right, and she don't love you. So when I looked at that article and I looked at that girl that got 18 months and she was trying to pull the neoteny thing on a judge, and she did. She only got 18 months. There's already been 9 months served. I don't even know if she's served. It was probably an in and out thing where she just had to show up on weekends. For what? For being a traitor to this country. You know, they hang traitors. She tried to use I'm just a naive college girl. I'm just a naive college girl. No, she was a Russian agent. That in 9 months is going to be exported. She's going to go back to her poor life in Serbia, where she disgraced her parents, and they're probably going to make her a national hero. Or she'll be working for some intelligence agency because she got a free American a free American education. So obviously she's smart and intelligent now. She can move on. And she got a free American, and then she was a traitor to this country, and she will get an additional 9 months to the 9 months she already served. If that was a dude and he was an agent of Russia and they caught him, he would be in jail for the rest of his life. Gynocentrism. Gynocentrism goes to the top of the judicial system. We got guys screwing girls, thinking they're in love, and judges that just fall for the neoteny. They have no idea about the biological woman. They have no idea, and they won't listen to a Mgtow. When a Mgtow says, "Hey, buddy, that was just gynocentrism, and you're erring on the side of a woman just because it's a woman." You gave her what? 9 months? That's crazy. We see these females get off of murder all the time. Oh, they're so teary and they didn't mean it, and they were having some psychological issues and everything. And then we look at the rate in prison, and there's like so many men in prison. It's unbelievable now. To like 20 million, 2 million in each state. I'm not even sure what it is anymore. And a good 80% of them are men. And women do crime at the same rate. They just boo-hoo. I'm so sorry. And they go, "Oh, little lady, I can see you're sorry." That's gynocentrism. But it plays out at the highest of the highest of offices in this country. And you know why? Because they reject us. Because marriage has taken hold. The religialistic program of marriage has taken hold of our government. 98% of those people are married, some of them married to each other. You have to be married if you're going to run for Congress. You have to be married. It gives you a 50% more chance of being voted in. Single people aren't represented in Congress, and we ask why the laws won't change. Because single people like me and you were not represented in Congress. And the one guy that was there to represent us, this Paul Erickson, that one guy, the one single guy that was running around that they allowed around because he was so smart. A 28-year-old Russian agent walks up to him and wiggles a little bit, and he's one BJ away, and he falls for that whole thing, and he thinks she loves him. We ain't doing our job good enough around here if that's what's happening in America, and we got to turn up the heat. We got to turn up the heat as Mgtows, because these guys aren't getting it. Hello, everybody that's watching at this time. I know it's a little earlier. What was I doing? I got in a little bit ago. I was out. I was doing stuff, and then I just looked at these two articles, and it just set me on fire. Hello, RP. Hello, Steve. Hello, Shingles, my friend. I'm still going to learn Gaelic, Shingles. I swear to God, I'm trying hard. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Jotty, the with ESP. Oh, Jotty's got ESP. Yeah, that's a great title. I love these original titles. Hello, Forrest Burns. Hello, everybody that's in. Hello, Steve. Hello, Cybermonk. There's a lot of things wrong with our country, and every time I look at something, all roads to me, it always leads back to Mgtow. It's why I don't like, I read the news, and then it's just like, man, that's Mgtow issue. Man, that's a Mgtow issue. Man, that's a Mgtow issue. And people go like, well, what are you talking about? They're a Mgtow issue, because all the roads lead back to Mgtow. It leads back to male simping. It leads back to the one BJ away. All these terms that we use, maybe the one BJ away, we got to better define that term so we can say it to them and relabel it in a neolocalism that's friendly and happy with a smiley face, and reterm the terminology so we can say it out loud in public and people understand. That guy's a simp. That guy's a white knight. Look at him. If that woman walks by him, he's going to cower. He's going to be on his knees. He's going to fall for that. Them are the kind of guys you don't want around you, because they're the kind of guys that did exactly what Paul Erickson did. He betrayed everybody. He betrayed your country. for a little bit of that split V. And he was supposed to be the best of us. He was a promise keeper. He was a promise keeper. He was an old-fashioned promise keeper. Just like me. Somebody that's supposed to have some dignity. Somebody that's supposed to be above reproach. And he shames us. He shames all men. And he shames Mgtow. He shames MRA and PUA. And he shames the incels. And he shames men in general. Because he couldn't control himself. Mgtow is about control. By having control over your thoughts and your body and your mind, you do your and you do your you look deep down into your soul, your introspection, and then you look out at the absurdity of the world, and you see hypocrisy on the progressive side. You see hypocrisy with the conservatives. You see hypocrisy all through that thing, and it's sprinkled in there like some nasty virus, some fungal virus that's growing. And you see it everywhere. But lately, my job in this whole thing seems to be talking to the liberals, progressives, and explaining to them how hypocritical they are when they want to do body positive on one end, but they want to shame the incels just because they're males. And then they want to argue with me about the idea of disposable maleness. They want to argue, and they'll go, and they'll be doing that right in front of your face. They'll be doing the disposable male right in front of your face while they're arguing against it. That's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy. Sam Cedar and Kank. Man, nothing bothers me more than hypocrisy. And on the other side of the aisle, I see the conservatives that would throw you under the bus in a minute for a piece of that V. Them Paul Ericksons that would betray their country for a piece of that V. The highest of offices, the most respected of men. These are supposed to be respected men? Man, I am more respectable than 90% of them. Probably smarter. But the world is not fair. I was born a poor Irish person in Cleveland, Ohio, where no one was giving me the come-ups. There was no patriarchy in which they speak of, or else I would have grabbed a hold of that. And if there was this imaginary white patriarchy where I could have grabbed hold of the white patriarchy and just rode that on the riches, on a tidal wave of riches, you don't think I would have done that? You don't think I would have grabbed hold of that? No such thing as the patriarchy. There's no such thing as white privilege. Or else I'd be sitting here with a big top hat on with money just piled up around me. I'd be diving in my swimming pool full of change. Because no one was giving this poor Irish boy a come up just because his skin was white, just because of the patriarchy, because he was male. That sounds, it's lunacy to me. It's lunacy when I hear those things. The only way I got ahead was through my hard work upon my back, and I pay for that every day. My knees hurt, my feet are swollen, my back hurts. And then the politicians say, no, you have to work more and harder. And then you realize as a Mgtow that they're just playing you. And that's 99% of you guys. And on like the PUAs that are world travelers that are running around with millions of dollars in their pockets, that are driving around in Elliot Rogers' BMW. They're lying to you. 99% of us are just like Joe, just trying to get by every day in this world. And the older you get, the more your knees swell. And the older you get, the more your feet are just big, fat pieces of hamburger that swell. And they're painful. And that's when you realize what John Locke was saying about disability. It's going to come. It's going to visit every one of you with age. And I look at my incel brothers and I know that they were born disabled. They didn't even have the opportunity that I had to work their way out of it, to marry another person, to experience love. They won't have that opportunity. The boss will look at them like they're lesser. People look at them like they're lesser. The same body positive bullshit that the feminists are saying. But as for the men, we don't get that same body positive. We get called fat guys and ugly guys. And no one cares because they're a man. And if you don't have a utility, there ain't no way out. And if you can't lift 300 pounds, there ain't no way out. You ain't marrying into wealth. I look at the hypocrisy of this world and I thank God every day I'm a Mgtow. I look at both ends of that spectrum and I go, wow, I'm going to slide back here on the Mgtow bench and I'm going to laugh at both of them because both of them make me sick. Somewhere in the middle of that negative to a negative, there's some kind of truth in there where you got to fall and just be a decent person. And that's the best you're going to get out of this world. Try to have a little fun, be a decent person, and smile and laugh at them. And once in a while, you'll have to do the creepy smile. Yeah, you're so, because you know they're just walking hypocrisy. And the world is absurd. It's the theater of the absurd everywhere I look. Mgtow's the only safe place there is. And you guys found it. And I think that's wonderful. Because, man, it was so hard to find. Man, it was. You think about how hard it took me. It took me 32 years to find it. It took me 36 years old. I was 16 years abused in marriage. And I took that every day. I took that abuse. And I was that guy. I was that horrible person. It made me a horrible person. I was that guy that hated incels, that couldn't get by that. I had to work away from that. I was like so happy that I wasn't them. It was almost mysteriously funny, but it ain't funny no more. And I was wrong. And I'll admit that every day of my life. And that's my public recantation because I was a horrible person. I believed in that marriage thing. I believed in a system that lies. And I'll do that public recantation every day. Because the world will make you into that utilitarian, horrible person that doesn't care about anybody on this planet. It got so big to be a horrible person, just slinging out that casual cruelty to everybody around us, that they had to have separate parties. They had to split it in half. And say, you horrible people go over there, and you horrible people go over there, and we'll watch you fight in the middle, and we'll make a media all around it. And there's a media circus all around it. And that's for all the horrible people. Thank God for Mgtow. I can sit back on my Mgtow bench and just, man, look at the absurdity of it. It's like, it's like, it's like plate juggling, dancing dogs. It's like the circus where the little white dog flies through the flaming ring and lands on top of a bucket with one paw like doing a flip. Wow, that's incredible. And the absurdity of it. That's what you, my God. It's like a freaking circus out there. And it's real. But the horror part of it is they believe it. They believe it. That's the horror of it. You're going to see, it's just today, Paul Erickson. You're going to see some, he's a traitor to our country that betrayed our country for a little bit of split V while he was in the Peacekeepers. Do you know how fucking lunatic, do you know how absurd that is? And then some guy's going to come to his rescue and say, hey, I don't think you should talk about him like that, Joe, because he's a fine, honest man. No, he's not. He's a simp, and he belongs in jail. Christ. And that's 99% of the men out there. That's 99% of the men out there, Mgtow, that would trample over your back to get to that. They would hack you up. They would shoot you. And you don't think this thing is serious? They would betray you at work for that V. They would betray their country. All honor is out the door with the men. We talked about honor. If you want to go back and look at my video about honor, all honor is out the door. They can't hardly ever become that man above reproach. 99% of them. You don't think this is a dangerous place for a Mgtow? Man, sometimes chills go up my back thinking about how dangerous it is for me out there. If I run into a simp in a convenience store that's having a bad day because his girlfriend is having that time of the month, and I look at her wrong, and he has a gun or a knife or a can of soup to hit me with, I got to worry about that. Simply for a mere glance, which is all in his head because he's living in that world full of absurdity. And he's being tortured every day. And we get tortured monthly. When you're in a marriage, they got permission to torture you monthly because that little thing that happens to them, and they torture us monthly, and they think that's okay. And then they wonder why we're so hostile. The married men are so hostile. That's insane. That's insanity. No, Mgtow. Never take for granted what Mgtow gave you. They gave you an armor, a shield. They gave you a shield of armor, which you can foresee it. And if you see that stuff coming, you walk the other way because that's dangerous. You ain't going into that landmine field. You ain't eating poison mushrooms to see if you can get a 50, to see if you can get a good one. You ain't taking them risks. And when you're 70 years old and 75, and you didn't take that weight of the world on your back's going to feel good. Your feet are going to feel good. You're still going to be a spry old man. Man, you're going to look back at this day and you're going to go, thank God for Mgtow. There ain't no Mgtow slaves. That's a message that we got to push. We ain't your utility. We ain't the disposable male. We ain't the Mgtow slave. And you will treat us with respect. And I don't care what side's that coming from. And that's it. That's all I got to say today, man. Thanks a lot for showing up. I know the podcast a little earlier. I wanted to cook some Chinese. I'm hungry. I was going to eat a can of ravioli, but it would have been good. Chef Boyardee from Cleveland, a matter of fact. I seen a funny troll the other day. It was on a Google Map page. People that troll the Google Map page, man, I got the utmost respect for them dudes. If you're trolling Google Maps, you're a special kind of troll. I mean, he called himself Chef Boyardee. And then he said something totally bizarre, and I was searching the Kenyan what is it called now? I'm losing it. Tanzania area so I can buy coffee from Mount Kilimanjaro, which I'm going to get tomorrow, I hope, because it's not the greatest coffee, but it is the most Mgtow badass coffee. And that's all I feel about that. And I was ordering my Jamaican, so I have a good cup of coffee. And I know it's one of those things I splurge on. And I know Jamaican's $45 a pound. But once in a while, once every 3 months or so, I'll buy a couple pounds of it just because I'm worth it. Just because I'm Mgtow. Just because you deserve it, Joe. And that's it. But I seen a troll while I was there, and I was like, "Good going, buddy! You just trolled the shit out of that page." It's like son of a. So they get really creative once in a while, and I was looking on a page the other day, and I don't know how the guy got it on there. It was I was looking up a blood pressure medicine that I had to take for like a month to bring because I was getting so stressed out. My doctor gave me a blood pressure medicine and said, take this before you pop a vein, Joe. And so I was looking it up, trying to figure out what it was. And there was a troll on there, and he got it inside the blocks. You know, on the medical pages, they got the blocks that have to be approved. Your comments have to be approved, pre-approved. And he got one through, and he said, this stuff made me gay. It made me gay as hell. I mean, really, I'm gay as hell, he said. It was a blood pressure medicine. I thought, good troll, buddy. That was one of the best trolls I ever seen, and he got it off. So respect those guys. But that's life, and sometimes things is funny, and if you can't find the humor in these stuff sometimes, then you ain't looking hard enough, because there's a whole lot of humor. There's a whole lot of humor. It makes you feel better, and that's where I want to be on this planet. At least I want to feel good about this thing, and I deserve to feel good about this thing, and I deserve to be a Mgtow, and you guys deserve to feel good every day. You guys deserve to just take a little humor and not be so miserable, and you don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. And that's my message. You don't have to suffer either. Just sit back and take the Mgtow bench and laugh at everybody. It's just a bizarre world in the theater of the absurd. And with that, I think I'm going to go. My son, he's going to want to eat pretty soon, and I'm gonna go do that. And I'm making Chinese today, by the way. I'm gonna make a Korean Chinese sort of thing, Asian, I should call it. And with that, all you guys have a great day, and thanks for being Mgtow. Mgtow.